Alright, making a video. It happens. Anyway, I'm just way behind and all that crap and blah blah blah, but you know, nothing horrendous. Just the little nags of life, and you just keep trying to catch up. That's all this game is tedious. Keep up. Just keep treading water. You know. So anyway, this John Yin guy, who I have blocked because he's just a motherfucking little cunt. So I don't, you know, he's totally defensible, and you know, he's been commenting on my, you know, nobody does, but he does comment on the videos and says something nice and blah blah blah, and he's always been quite reliable and quite sensible, and he's sitting here defending, you know, delusionary rewritings of, you know, biblical history, and it's just, it's so fucking irritating. I mean, I don't know what to call it. He's not a Christian, but I mean, he's apparently a Christian apologist. He's obviously he's a little horny for Jeebus. So, yeah, I just find this insufferable. So let's go back again. Let's understand, okay, the scene, all right? They're in a hovel, like a cave or something, because they don't have a house, right? I mean, Jesus just migrates from wherever to wherever. His disciples gave up everything to follow him, all right? Everything. You know, abandoned their families, abandoned their whatever fortunes they had, whatever anything they had, they left it to follow him to the new future. So anyway, and so here you got this, like, there's this expensive oil. So the idea is this oil isn't, it's not, you know, in those days you might keep something, like even when Jesus was born, right? The wise men brought like frankincense and myrrh and all that kind of, you didn't use that shit. That was like money. So that was like a college fund. All right? And so this oil was stuff they had collected to sell to give the money to the poor. That was the idea. So it was like, nobody was self-indulgent enough. This was like having a Gucci handbag or something. You wouldn't use the damn thing. You'd sell it to some asshole who's gonna, you know, give you something real for it. So anyway, you would soak the rich. You would find some rich sucker to buy the fucking oil. You wouldn't use it. It wasn't peanut butter. It wasn't like a jar of peanut butter. Alright? It was a valuable thing, like gold or something, and it's like gold. Good Jesus said, I'm gonna have a gold sandwich. And so Judas sees this going on. He says, what are you doing, bitch? You know, it's expensive, that shit. And then Jesus says, hey, lay off her. She's, you know, having fun. You know, coveting God. Right? I mean, we as mortals aren't supposed to covet our neighbor's wife, but it's okay for some whore to covet Jesus. And so much so that she's so fanatically in love that Jesus can't hurt her feelings by saying, hey, that's a waste of money, bitch. So anyway, and so they've recontextualized Jesus' statement, which was, the poor will be with you always, I'm here but a short while. Now, if that isn't the statement of somebody who thinks they're superior, right? I mean, obviously thinks he's worth more than the poor, quite obviously, right? I mean, is there any other, there's no other conclusion to draw than that Jesus thinks, well, poor people suffer all the time. Who the fuck cares about their suffering? My suffering's important because I'm here now. I mean, it's not like the poor have been here. It's not like right now while Jesus is getting his feet fucking manicured, there isn't a ton of people with their leprosy and their fetters and their pains and their sufferings that could be soothed with the money being wasted on his feet. That's just a fact. And the God can't figure that out? So the idea that this would be something for which Judas would find this less than a satisfactory answer, you know, coming from the man, and where he might just say, oh, you know what we'll have with us always? False motherfucking prophets who have no fucking principles and no integrity and are duplicitous motherfucking cunts and think they're fucking king. Yeah, well, we've had those forever. Oh, the false prophet with the fucking $10 million doghouse. I mean, how many false prophets do we have to have before you can say, yeah, there's another one? I mean, it was pretty cliche false prophet behavior. Pretty cliche fundamentalist religious kookball who thinks, yeah, Jesus says you should be rich. So fuck you in this perverse recontextualization of just an example that the New Testament is just the Old Testament. Okay, and know what Jesus' brilliant plan was? You don't want the poor and the sick and the lepers? Let the wolves and the lions eat them. That was his fucking plan for them. Alright, he didn't have any plan for the weak. The meek will inherit the earth. No, the meek will get eaten by the lions and the fucking wolves. Jesus was a fucking idiot. The whole religion is idiotic. And these assholes making these elaborate defenses are just, it's just disgusting. So let me go through this. Mystic of the Sand. So I guess I'll have to block you too. Because you're just too, this is just such a fucking crock of absolute fucking shit. Gary, the story is about oiling the feet. Isn't about what he wanted. The poor will be with you always. I'm here but a short while. That's somehow a rational statement. It somehow has something, somehow that explains something. My needs are important, their needs aren't. How can it be interpreted as anything else? It's about what she wanted, which was to say goodbye. Okay, this wasn't the last fucking supper. What sense does it make? Okay, so she's in on the fact that Jesus is going to be tortured and killed, and Jesus hasn't even told the disciples yet. So so what? So he's the hooker's in on the plan, but the guys who gave up everything to follow him, they're not in on the plan. Oh, I get it. She has done this for my burial. Again, why would you do anything for somebody's burial before they're going to be tortured and crucified? It just seems pretty stupid to say, well, let me sew that little that hole in your robe, so you'll look good for your torture. It was a voluntary gesture of sympathy on her part. Yeah, a voluntary gesture where she took stuff that wasn't hers to take. Okay, the pillage for the poor. She stole from the poor people to give to the arrogant God. Stole from the poor to give to the fucking rich, right? This guy's got a guaranteed seat in the kingdom of God. There's no sin he's going to commit that's going to get him thrown in fucking hell, is there? Is God going to throw his son in hell? No, I guess not. Because he fucking goddamn did sin, and he obviously, nobody ever said anything about him going down. Anyway, I mean, Eve's rotting in there for a fucking apple crime. Shit. And put to death. When he says, why do you trouble this woman? Okay, yeah, he's just saying because the woman is the one who stole the oil and is rubbing it on your feet. He assumed rationally that it wasn't Jesus' idea. The accusation isn't that Jesus said, go get some oil and rub my feet. That's not the accusation. The accusation is this fucking woman thinks she has the right to go steal the pillage and wipe it on Jesus' goddamn feet. That she has a right to steal the gold and make him a gold sandwich. That's why Jesus is saying, what the fuck you doing, bitch? I'm the accountant here. I'm responsible for, I think Judas was the bookkeeper. So he's like, yeah, what are you doing? We go to all this trouble to collect this shit so you can fucking wipe it on his feet? Is that why I did all this begging? Is so you can wipe it on his feet? She has done me a good thing. It doesn't mean I'm a narcissistic cunt who likes foot massages. Well, I guess it does. I guess when you say, I will be here for a short while, you're basically a pretty big narcissist if you think that everybody isn't here for a short while. Yeah, I'm here for a short while too, Jesus. Newsflash. Judas was probably saying that. I gave up everything I have to go walk the desert with you, you fucking cunt. Alright, so my one little short while that I'm here, I voluntarily threw it all away. I mean, even though I didn't have much, but I had something. To have nothing, okay, to go with some prophet guy to go change the fucking world, and it seems like your change is the same meat grinder I'm fucking running from, you fucking asshole. All it means is, yes, it's worthless in the long run. There you go. Like, again, we could just throw another cancer victim on the pile. Who cares? The pile is so big, we can't count anymore, so who cares? So as long as it's not you, right? So as long as you're not the fucking one being called in the long run, doesn't matter in the long run. Oh, I just love that. I love just being a statistic. Fuck you! Again, the God can't figure out that statistical analysis, it's worthless in the long run, is technically incorrect. It's never worthless. Suffering is never worthless. It's always worth something, and if you can prevent one of them, that's good. So he's decided to fuck some leper in the ass to have his fucking feet massaged. I mean, that's all it's about. There's no other reality here. Some leper went without, so some stupid whore could indulge her desire to hump Jesus' leg. You know, covet it. It all it means is, yes, it's worthless in the long run. I mean, it's just so stupid. It's not like his feet were going to smell much of the perfume after him being buried and crucified. Yeah, so at least you get that argument. That, yeah, this seems a pretty ludicrous rationalization that she was doing it for his burial when there wouldn't be any evidence of his cleaned feet, you know, after he was crucified. But she needs to say goodbyesies in her own way. I mean, say her goodbyes in her own way. So again, we have to indulge her desire. We can indulge, but some guy married to some succubus, you know, who gained 500 pounds while they got married, and she just eats all his money all day eating bonbons or something. That guy ain't allowed to covet anything. He ain't allowed to say, "Oh, please save me. Can't I divorce that bitch?" No, he goes to auto hell. Okay, if he leaves her. Doesn't matter what kind of monster she turns into. He can't leave. That's Jesus' one edict. He's the one thing he actually said, you're going to go to hell if you do. You know, is that. I mean, fuck you. This is silly. Anyway, but she needs to say her goodbyes in her own way. We have fed the... I don't even know what this is, right? I guess he just made up this quote. This isn't in the Bible. We have fed the poor together. Yeah, we have fed the poor together. What would you give them? Gold sandwiches. X loaves and fishes. And you will continue to do so after I'm gone. With what magic then? What, do you think all their magic powers, they're still going to have their magic powers after Jesus is dead? Yeah, probably not. A paltry smear of oil won't deprive anybody of anything. So again, this is God logic. A paltry smear of oil won't deprive anybody of anything. So there is some sort of free something somewhere. So he could just make another bottle of oil, but he decided not to. I mean, theoretically, if he can just do this loaf and fish thing whenever the fuck he wants, just a snap of his fingers, then why didn't he do it more often? Why wasn't he just why weren't loaves and fishes just flying out of the cave? Yeah, then if Jesus is sitting there like some queen ant producing a zillion eggs or something, I mean, he could just keep popping out golden eggs, you know, just farting out golden eggs all day that you could roll up to the poor and give the poor some golden eggs. Well, then I guess there wouldn't be much gripe about this oil thing. But that pretty much wasn't how they're living. They didn't live in hotel rooms. Okay, they didn't have no fucking money. Jesus Christ. That's all that the passage has to do with. So again, he just made up this new verse that doesn't exist anywhere. It's just a joke. That's all the passage has to do with. A woman having a fit of nostalgia and feeling like somebody she loves will be taken from her. So again, her feelings can be indulged, but some mother with a kid dying, fuck it, who cares? It's not like we could sell the oil for medicine for the kid. No, she's poor. Fuck her. Okay? I'm Jeebus. I'm the show. It sounds like the Old Testament, right? That just sounds like some guy declaring himself David God guy, and I'm now king, and fuck all you people. I'll start hacking you in half, you know, and I'll start doing all kinds of silly things because I'm God. I mean, it just sounds like another false prophet. That's all the passage has to do with. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing sinful. So again, so it's okay. It's not okay for a man to covet, to want, to desire, to look at and go, "Ooh, man, what an ass," his neighbor's wife. But it's okay for a slut to fawn over the Son of God. So if you're the Son of God, it's okay if you have a few, what do you call it, groupies. Groupies are okay. Silly bitches in love with silly people, that's okay. But a man whose eye wanders, that's not okay. One goes to hell, one we go, "Oh, there, little girl, you can't handle reality, can you? You can't be a serious, real person, but you're a silly woman." So this is just more misogyny. I mean, really, if it was a man doing it, I guess you could figure out how this wasn't right? A homosexual man. Then, oh, would you rationalize it then? You know, I mean, would you rationalize the hypocrisy regarding homosexuality? Would you? Just rationalize? That's not what he meant. He meant, you know, thou shalt. Well, no, I don't even know. I won't even get into trying to thou shalt something for the homosexual penis. Nothing sinful on anybody's side and has nothing to do with indulgence at all. So again, just ignore the passage. The poor will be with you always. Some sort of argument like they're really not that terribly important. So don't worry yourself. I, the important me, will only be here for a short while, unlike those poor individuals. I mean, again, let's understand, when he says the poor, it's not some kind of, you know, cockroach that lives 10,000 years, where you're saying, well, it'll be around tomorrow, we can get some oil tomorrow. No, the poor is dying right now, right this moment. It is suffering and dying. And he's basically just saying, fuck them. That's all he's saying, fuck them. I mean, there's no other interpretation. When you say something will be with you always, you're discounting the significance of it. Fuck. It's not that I have a thing for God or of the desert. Well, it seems you have a thing for silly stories and rationalizing them. But this really isn't such a difficult story to decode. Well, your decoding is just an absolute insane pile of crap that you just made up. So I really don't... What decoder ring did you... What kind of box of cracker jerk did you get your decoder ring out of? Jerk on crack. Anyway, and while we're on the topic, when he talks about not being of this world, that is a devaluative statement. Well, I knew it was a devaluative statement, and he said it in response to somebody who asked a rational question. Well, what if, okay, you tell me, I'm supposed to take it, so my brother dies, I take in his wife, now I got 3 fucking wives, which one do I go to heaven with? You know, how do you work this out in heaven? Because these bitches is going to be fighting all over the place. And Jesus' answer was, "Oh, don't worry about that shit, because in heaven you don't have a wife anyway, and you forgot who your kids are, and you don't know shit about nothing." And so then, you know, that another point where somebody should have just done the blank stare and said, "What? So I'm doing all of this shit to be some other person in hell or heaven? I mean, if I'm in hell, I'm going to remember, and if I'm in heaven, I'm not going to remember? I mean, what's the fucking point of me going there then? If it's not going to be me, fuckhead. I mean, I am my memories. If you're going to take my memories away, then what's the fucking point?" Anyway, it's not that I have a thing what I used to do. And while we're not, what was I? Worth that much. This world isn't worth all that much. Yeah, well, it's not even that it's not worth all that much. It's that, no, it's saying basically the rules of heaven are different rules. We're not going to have sex anymore. We're not going to have fun anymore. You're just going to sit around, be bored to fucking goddamn death, because everything fun to do, which like coveting your neighbor's wife, you're not going to be allowed to do anymore. So what's the fucking point? You're not going to go up to heaven and, oh, check out that side boob. What the fuck am I going to do then? Okay, I really, as a neutered, you know, cut my nuts off and send me to heaven, I'm supposed to say thank you? Well, fuck you. It's the only rational response to this idiotic deal people are given anyway. And the average person obviously doesn't understand that. They don't understand what Jesus is basically saying in that passage. He's basically saying, you know, you assholes think you're going to go to heaven and play volleyball with your wife and your kids or something. No, you're not going to do any of that. You're not going to see your dead relatives. You're not going to see anything. Okay? You're going to sit in a fucking chair and shut up. And that's something we can all agree with, regardless of whether we believe in afterlife or not. So surprisingly enough, you and Jesus, no, I have nothing to do with you, agree on something in the main thing, actually. Yeah, there's nothing we agree on. What's the fucking point of God creating this world if he didn't think it would be an advancement of the gameplay? So obviously, God didn't think this was a useless experiment. So fuck you for that, too. I mean, fuck you for this recontextualization that this was somehow supposed to be the lesser world. I'm presuming it was supposed to be somehow the better world. Fuck God, you're stupid. That's how many Christians relate. So this is John contextualizing this made-up story. So many Christians relate to this story this guy just made up. That's how many Christians relate to the tale. Okay, I just Googled. You know, we have fed the poor together. Yeah, God, I got one result for that one. So I guess people haven't fed the poor together too often. Fuck you. I mean, I never, in the whole time I've been related to Christianity, heard about Christianity, I have never heard that rationalization that Jesus was just allowing the waste because he didn't want to hurt the whore's feelings. She's on her period, everybody. Okay, come on. You know, she's on her period, okay? Just be careful around the bitch. Is that what Jesus was saying? She's too unstable. Don't piss her off. This is just so fucking idiotic. It is certainly relatable in pure humanistic terms, so whatever. This is just such silly putty. I have just made friends with a girl who has spina bifida, and last week I met her at a local cafe. Oh, a cafe. And I was prepared to buy her a drink or whatever she wanted. Well, how decent of you. However, she had already paid for my own drink, and later, on the quiet, paid for another. She somehow on the quiet paid for his drinks. Gee, he just must be so fucking charming, huh, John? You're just like Jeebus. You just want to do you a favor for just being in my presence. Is that it? She is on welfare and can ill afford to do this. Well, apparently people on welfare can afford shit I never imagined was possible, but whatever, that's a whole other argument. But I may not see her again after January 4th, and I don't know what that means. Is that an anonymous statement, like she's gonna die of it or something? And this was her way of expressing friendship and warmth. Well, I don't know. You really haven't developed this relationship at all, so I really don't know how to make a judgment about this. What she was doing exactly, what was in her head. I mean, maybe she thought, well, if I prime this pump with a little bit of freebies, it's rich and it'll give me a whole bunch of goodies. Maybe that's all she's thinking. Maybe a few little compliments and she can own your wallet. Yeah. While recognizing the dire circumstances, I accepted the gift in the spirit it was intended and hope in the future to be able to add value to her life through my company. Ew, I'm so charming, and I'll give her value by just being in her presence. Just letting her smell my aura. This sprang to mind earlier when reflecting upon this video. Well, whatever, fuck you. The point about always as well, which I don't think I explained particularly well. Well, you didn't explain it at all. You sit there and said, you're interpreting wrong. It really says, you will have the poor always with you, not with you always. Yeah, that was the extent of your recontextualization. You fucking insulted my intelligence, John. Well, is that always can be applicable to one state, but when that state changes, it's no longer applicable. Oh yes, well one assumes that the earth is going to be totally destroyed and the new 2 humans left will be allowed to do the adamant thing all over again. Well, yes, one assumes there will be no poor for an interval of 50 years. And then the poor will be right back again. Anyway, I don't want to make inmendham blow many fuses. Well, sorry, I mean, this is just so irritating and disgusting. I'm sorry. I just don't. This is. I don't. You know, you can make all kinds of analogies, but like, yeah, this is like some serious biologist, and he's doing all this fancy talk about DNA, blah 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 blah, and then he says something stupid like, yeah, and giraffes have long necks because they really wanted to have a long neck, and so they just kept wishing on a star, and their necks got longer. And you're like, what? So yeah, you just blew any credibility you had by sitting here desperately rationalizing a silly biblical story that just demonstrates that God is an egomaniacal lunatic, that even when he creates some kind of Jeebus character who's supposed to be like all save the poorish and all that kind of shit and have sympathy and be compassionate, even when he creates such a character, he can't pull it off because somewhere in there he's going to do the the poor will be with you always, I'm really important, I'm the show, man. I mean, it's not like they're suffering more than me. Isn't that all he's saying? Yeah, that's all he's saying. His pain's important. Poor people pain, fuck it. Anyway, I don't want to... Blah, blah, blah. I'll stop going on about this now, even though I think it's important to be correct in these matters. Yeah, you calling this correct, this perverse, disgusting remanufacture of the story, fuck you. Anyway, your concrete example illustrates my point quite deftly. Take care, John. Yeah, well, fuck both of you. Fucking apologists for absolute crap. No, I can't block him here, so I'm not signed in. So, the good news in this video is Poodle Susan made a couple of comments, which is very nice to see her back. Yeah, there's another one. Excellent. So anyway, I hadn't seen her post comments in a while. So, I guess we'll do some Hythloday and then get the hell out of town. Yeah, he's bitching about something. Yeah, inmendham doesn't... He's poopy. Yeah, so, interjectory.
YouTube philosophy.
Huh?
What a joke.
What a joke. Jeez. I take my turn, you take your turn. What a joke. You know, the joke part is, again, it's just the silly rationalizations, the silly evasions, the silly bullshit. I have had to spend a year talking with you about trying to prove the value of suffering. I mean, what the fuck? Why should I have to do that?
This style of response that people think they're giving is unbelievable. It's like if I want to say, are apples better than oranges?
Again, so now we're back to the subjective argument, right? This is just so predictable, right? Nobody's making a subjective argument here. We're not talking about the opinions, none of that kind of shit. The whole point of the conversation is to establish that there's a rudimentary value engine, that there's a thing that actually creates value in the universe, and it's called sentience. If there was no sentience in the universe, you could not contrive a value mechanism. There is no work to get done in the universe. Nothing that you do in the universe could possibly make a goddamn difference if nothing called actual harm could be caused. If nothing could be put in a deprivated, painful, suffering state. There could be no fucking value. So this whole conversation is taking place about the existence of an absolute value that has nothing to do with your subjective crap, that you can't subjectively hate the thing into irrelevance. If it's a little fucking rabbit in the universe and it feels, it doesn't matter whether you like rabbits or you hate rabbits. It feels. That's what matters. I mean, this is just, we've already been down this road. This is just so fucking predictable. It's catch 20 fucking 2. That's all you fucking are, right? If I get you on the argument, you'll just jump to the next fucking catch, just play the same game all over again. I'll just go circularly through these stupid evasions. Oh, you didn't prove suffering is suffering. You didn't prove bad is bad. You didn't blah, 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 blah. It's just disgusting.
These guys, most particularly inmendham, should I say, interject with, okay, apples, as soon as the word apples, you don't know nothing about apples. You think apples are like...
Okay, again, it doesn't play my video. So he's talking about interjectory philosophy. You don't have the balls to play my video because you couldn't turn my video into that. It's impossible to turn my video into that. You're the fucking goddamn stupid, inarticulate cunt who can't even make a point rationally. And you say things like, when inmendham says, and what you mean really is, when inmendham uses this argument and says this is a bad thing. See, you had to add those extra words for it to be understood what you're trying to say, you inarticulate asswipe.
Perfect fucking spheres, and everybody knows they're not perfect spheres, and they ramble on and on and on and on, and then I go, better, and you go, better, you think is better, blah, 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 and they go on and on and on, and then I say oranges, and you say, oranges, you don't know shit about oranges, blah, 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 I'll tell you.
It's not the argument again. Again, you're the one demanding the proof. You're saying that for something to exist, if I can't find a rock where God wrote it on the rock and said this thing has value, that I'm somehow supposed to provide you with some sort of material proof, some sort of proof external to personal experience, external to the personal experience, external to any evidence you gain through personal conscious experience. And that is not possible because there's only one thing, as I'll state again, like sentience. There's no other thing like it. There is no apple-orange comparison. There is nothing. There's an apple. There's no oranges. There's no grapefruit. There's no lemons. There's no other thing like it. And you're using that against the truth of the apple existing. You're saying the apple doesn't exist because there's no orange to compare it to. Fuck you.
About oranges, nature made them through a system of competitive gladiator wars, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so again, that's how seriously you take what is a fundamental and catastrophic example of the problem here. It's a Rube Goldberg machine for which there is no designed objective. And the Rube Goldberg machine is made out of feeling things. They're getting ground. It's like it wouldn't be so funny if the Rube Goldberg machine, well, instead of using a ping pong ball that goes down and it knocks a bowling pin over, it wouldn't be so funny, would it, if it was little Joey gets pushed down the slide. He gets cut in half by a knife, and one of the halves pushes Jimmy into a wheat combine and rips his arm off, and then it wouldn't be so funny, would it then, asshole? If you took any of this fucking seriously, that's the real mechanism that we're sitting here on top of. We're sitting here as the perfect creation 4 billion years later. We're sitting on this pile of blood, and that's the best you can do is blah, blah, blah. The poor will be with you always. Fuck all the victims. Blah, blah, blah. Fuck you.
And then they go on, and they'll start a new question, and they're just oblivious to the fact that a question has arisen.
Again, what question? Questions. If they were actual questions, you could even write them down. If you had some real horniness for these questions that need to be answered, that you say haven't been answered or haven't been stated. I think you have had them responded to over and over and over to again. People have attempted to explain to you that you can't make a true positive because you have the problem that there isn't a real negative to its absence. That changes the ball game a little bit, because with the negative there is a real positive to its destruction. When you destroy a negative, you have done a real positive. There's a real correlation between the plus and the minus, where that correlation through asymmetry doesn't exist for the positive. The positive doesn't have that advantage of pointing to the negative that'll exist if the positive isn't there. The only positives that can do that are positives created by destruction of negatives. But there is no true positive that could say that for itself. I'm necessary. No, it can't demonstrate that. A true positive can't demonstrate itself to be necessary, because it's apparently not fixing something that's in a negative state. But you can't understand this shit anyway, because you're a dumb, ignorant motherfucker.
I mean, this is just a total lack of respect for me. For me, the video, fact that I'm making questions.
Yeah, again, where? Where are your what are your questions, fuckhead? How many times can I say this out loud? Where are your questions? All you make are accusations. Your accusation was that I somehow implied that people are saying because life isn't needed, it needs to be destroyed. That was your argument. You were saying somebody was saying that. Because it doesn't have a fundamental underlying purpose, we're arguing it should be destroyed. And you completely left out of that scenario the fact that it has been declared inefficient. It has been declared a bloodbath. It has been declared a negative thing. You just ignore that. So what the fuck is you talking about, jackass? You start telling us that we're saying that the rocks on Mars have to be destroyed because they're unnecessary. And we're not making that argument, you lying, slandering fuck.
I mean, most notably, I'm agreeing with inmendham that there is no art contained within I exist, therefore I ought to exist. And so there's a question posed. How are they structurally different? Yeah? And
oh, I can't believe. I just spent the whole video explaining it. Now he's going to say the same thing again. That's how are they structurally different? The structurally different is, I said, as I stated before, the rock on Mars does not say on it suffering. The rock on Mars does not create suffering. The rock on Mars does not do a single solitary thing that can be contrived as negative, and therefore there is no reason to get rid of the rock on Mars. Fuck.
I think Logic Rolls the Dice gives a stock answer, which I know he's talked about at length, but certainly here in this video, it's barely a sentence of stock answer, where he's not really related. He says, he basically reiterates that, well, the difference is in the one section there's an alt, and in the other section there's not an alt. Well, you know, come on, give me some credit. I'm asking, how is it that there is?
I just can't. I can't accept this. My brain is just going to explode. I just spent 1 fucking hour explaining what the difference is. If somebody said life is good, therefore but it's unnecessary, but it's good, that would be an argument for why it should continue. So all they'd have to do is add the good part, okay, with some sort of evidence, and they could say, fine, okay, then it's harmless and good. You know, some qualification. But clearly, nobody you could point to, not a single video you could ever point to, has anybody ever argued, okay, that there's any necessity for life to be prevented without pointing to the fact that it's not just unnecessary, it's unnecessary harm. It's unnecessary suffering that is its byproduct. There is absolutely no way you could make an argument that anybody is saying life should be destroyed merely because it wasn't invented. It wasn't created by a god. That is not the argument.
And to talk about the whys and wherefores of that in detail. Inmendham just is oblivious. It's just completely oblivious to when I tell him, when I say that inmendham says, it's that I've just agreed that he's talking he's talking in the third person. Okay, so he technically does actually say it, and if he wants me to play the clip, he does say what I say he says. Yes, but he's being ironic.
Yeah, he's being ironic, right? So that might be an important piece of context when you're going to quote somebody, is that he's saying it in an ironic way. Oh, gee.
Okay, and it's a point that I make that the irony is well-founded. It's fallacious mode of reasoning.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not fallacious if you have reason to say why the door shouldn't be open. Again, this can't be, there's no fair way for there to be any confusion here whatsoever. No one, again, you can't find a single video made by a single antinatalist where they just went on and on and on about the fact that life doesn't have a purpose. That is, it doesn't accomplish anything for the universe, and that's why it shouldn't exist. It always, the argument always contains the realization that it opens the door to harm. And that is the thing that can't be, that needs compensating justification. You can't open a bad door without justifying cost compensation. And the argument being made is there's no external justifying compensation for the harm created, so now the justification must be found somewhere in its own bathtub.
If a watcher of my videos isn't prepared to give it a watch, take it in as best they can, and if they have trouble remembering these things, I have trouble remembering particulars sometimes, but I'm fairly good at remembering and forming a complete structure in my mind
of preposterous misparaphrase. That's right. You are able to create completely preposterous mischaracterizations of people's arguments. Again, i.e., mischaracterizing our argument as benign rocks on Mars because they have no purpose should be destroyed, and that we're somehow suggesting that benign rocks on Mars should be destroyed. No, we are not suggesting that that's what logic should waste its time on.
Of the items through which I wish to address. Okay, now if you can't watch the video and remember the items which you need to address and address those, you know, because in my speech there are questions.
Okay, whoa, no, there aren't questions.
It's all about me. Look how I can interject this guy.
Okay.
It is.
Alright, so anyway, sorry, I hit the button and moved the damn thing, unfortunately. So I was just going to point out to Logic rolls the dice. So that's a reasonable remark by him. You call this a reasonable argument he's making. This is reasonable. You seem like a reasonable... Where do you get the seem like reasonable in this fucking bullshit? Where? Just fuck these people.
A tactic to have no intention of answering the questions. I think it
again, so I can't say this any more explicit. Why don't you used to use all these capital letters? Why don't you ask what your question in capital letters then? What is your fucking question? I don't see any questions. Again, all I see is fucking slanderous accusations. I don't see any questions.
Maybe just the lack of respect of giving me that first watch. You've got Logic rolls the dice, literally playing a video game as it scrolls through, and you've got inmendham with this look at great a talker I am. It's all about me. Look how I can interject this guy and pull him to pieces. And he
whatever. That's what argument is, asshole. I mean, you haven't heard the old cliche: if you can't take the heat, get the fuck out of the kitchen. It's a game that requires a little... You got to bring some game with you, buddy. All right? You can't jump the pole. You can't run. You can't do what you got to do. Then don't go volunteering for the Olympics or something, okay? I mean, this philosophy is going to be an argument about what the right way to say things is, what the right vernacular to use is. It's going to be arguments about big ideas and little minutia. That's what it is. That's the nature of it. Whiner.
Thinks he's doing a job, and he's not. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, again, you're not going to be able to point out where I've been ridiculous. Your paraphrases have been ridiculous.
You know, I would concede that at times certain words was slowed down the videos. I struggled to find them, and the length of it was doubled, perhaps needlessly, because I wanted to illustrate what I legitimately saw as the three strings, which inmendham bashes out of hand without considering how I came to that formula.
I bashed it out of hand because I had already responded to the point that there was some disconnect between these things. I'd already made the point, okay, that you can't keep playing this game. You can't keep separating our arguments and cutting our arguments in half and then saying the two halves are dead. Well, yeah, you killed the two halves because they do need to, but they are necessarily stuck together. So if you take away the concept of there being a negative thing taking place as being the real reason why we're against something is because it contains a negative component. We're not against it because it lacks purpose. We're against it because it lacks purpose to justify the negative. So again, you're the one who eviscerated our arguments we consistently made in that form. And you were the one who decided to pull them apart. No one else pulled them apart. You did. No one's made a video exclusively on the subject of purposelessness as if that was all you needed to do. All you needed to do was point out that life is purposeless and you need to say no more. That's all you need to do is say it's purposeless, therefore we should annihilate it. No.
And how I've justified it. He could have said, you're mistaken, that actually is, you know,
it's not there's no mistake in here. Like I said, I started the video by saying there's two. There's the value argument and the ethics argument. I started the fucking video with that statement. There's no mistake here. You just decided to ignore what I stated explicitly in the video. This is what I believe. That was the video. There's no misunderstanding now. You can't misconstrue my point now. Here's the fucking arguments. And I made the two arguments. So fuck you. This is absolute bullshit. Then you show up to make a new video where you've, again, misparaphrased me again. I make the video to fix your misparaphrase. You completely ignore it and just keep lying about what I'm saying.
He's eliminated one of the strings, that about purposelessness, to which I would say, well, why did you...
I haven't eliminated it. I've put it where it belongs, next to the subject of value. I just don't see how it doesn't... It's not like it has no meaning. It has meaning, and it has meaning in both subjects, actually. But it's connected. It is. You can't disconnect it from the context of there being a possibility of a negative. If you don't concede the existence of the possibility of a negative, how could somebody possibly have an opinion? If gas was free, how could you worry about fuel economy? Let's say there was no pollution and gasoline was free. How could anybody possibly worry about fuel economy? They couldn't. So obviously the context is gas is precious and there's pollution. Now economy matters.
You go on about it all the time. If it's hardly, you know, it's such a low tier piece of logic, concrete fact.
Yeah, in the video now he's responding to, right, that I've already made, I described it as sharks in a pool. I don't know if that's a low tier. Is that low tier? I think a shark is a pretty ominous metaphor. So I think it's probably a pretty significant thing. It's a pretty significant fact. Okay, so I'm not saying it's not a significant fact. What I'm saying is that the reverse argument would be that you would have to demonstrate the non-threat. And in this argument, we're demonstrating the real threat that you're opening the door, letting the shark in the pool, and you'll get what you get. Sensibly.
He spends much of his time doing the usual telling, and that isn't addressing the point that's been tried to make. I've heard you tell me that cupcake is better than nail in eye, right? And I agree. And how many times do I need to say I agree?
You don't agree. You think it's subjective. You're still going to call it subjective. I'm saying it's an absolute truth. I'm saying it's the source of all value in the universe is derived through this fact of sentient experience. So again, there's no point in you saying, for me personally, I agree. This is an argument about whether rape is bad, not whether you raping is bad. No, whether anybody raping is bad. This is an argument about what's the nature of value. Where is it derived? What is it made of? What is its kernel? I've used these words. There is the kernel of value is created in the sentient experience. That you don't agree with, quite obviously.
Agree. Why not address what is actually the point of difference?
The point of difference is subjective opinion is irrelevant. In a logical discussion about fucking philosophy or the reality of our existence, I could give a shit less about a subjective, intersubjective agreement or any of that crap. That's not a rational argument. It's not a logical excuse. It's not anything to do with anything that could possibly mean anything. So until we agree on absolute premises, agree that yes, we are in the universe is material, all this crap that you assholes play, this idiotic fucking goddamn infantile game to evade reality, until we agree on those premises, there's no fucking argument. I am not agreeing to intersubjectively agree with you that suffering is bad. That is not my statement. I do not believe that. I do not believe I subjectively declare value. I do not believe that I make something valuable by having an opinion. That doesn't fucking goddamn happen. It either has value or it does not have value. You either do or you either do not do. These are facts. Okay, that's the Yoda of philosophy, all right? What you're talking is just absolute elephant nonsense. It's, I don't know, elephant-faced saxophone player nonsense. I mean, it's just bullshit, okay? This is not philosophy. This is absolute mush, this subjective crap. Subjective crap is just fucking farting in each other's direction. It is a useless activity.
Stand there all bold, preaching to your converted, good. And if you think that nail in the eye is better than cupcake...
No, I'm mocking fakes and phonies and bullshit rationalizations. And so when other people start doing that, maybe it'll occur to them, oh yeah, I'm rationalizing. Maybe the John Yins and different other people, they'll say, oh yes, that was a preposterous rationalization. I'm just making excuses because I have a personal horny.
Then I don't know what I can do for you. It's not much of an engagement with what I'm saying.
No, it's the only engagement that's possible. What you are saying can't be provided, okay? You're asking for material evidence of value. I can't give you material evidence of value. I can't give you a declaration from God. I can't give you a declaration from evolution. Evolution will not tell you I'm an asshole. Okay, even though evolution is an asshole, it will not tell you I'm an asshole. You have to use your intelligence to discover that evolution is shit as a process.
So, ask yourself, what is at play? What is the question? If I'm saying, I know nail in my eye...
See, there we go. See, is this too fucking obvious? If I know that nail, again, he's going to subjectify again. He will not admit that the sentient suffering is the problem. The nail causes sentient suffering. It doesn't matter who the suffering is. It doesn't matter what the suffering is, who the sufferer is, or what the sufferer is. If it can suffer, that is the negative. That's the bad thing that ought to be avoided.
Personal experience is worse than cupcake. What the hell can I be going on about?
Again, personal experience. So again, he just wishes to say it has no meaning, relevance to a conversation about the reality for all sentient organisms in the universe, to the entire material universe, to the existence of the very concept of value. That this is a necessary component for the creation of value is to have sensitive organisms that can be hurt, that can be harmed, that can actually manifest the feelings of torture and unpleasantness. If you can't manifest the feelings of torture and unpleasantness and negative, uncomfortable sensation, then it is not possible to do anything in the universe that could possibly make a difference.
Have you fathomed what it is I'm going on about?
Again, this can't be made any clearer. Okay, you're the one that demanded this proof. That's why I'm giving you the proof. I'm giving you the logical, rational, reasonable, contextual proof. I can't prove it any other way. I can't compare sentience to any other thing. And so with the tools left to me, I'm explaining to you that I've personally experienced it. I've reasoned that the other conscious beings are not projections of my imagination, that they actually exist. Their behavior manifests exactly, correlates with my personal reaction to events. So we can sensibly assume that they are likewise feeling a similar negative sensation. I mean, this is, you know, to have to even go through this convoluted bullshit to acknowledge the fact that we are all sentient, that brains create the manifestation, that brain is not just exclusively human, that it exists in all these mammalian organisms, that they are driven by the emotional and physical mechanisms of sensation, positive and negative, to whip them and carrot them into behavior, and that all these things are trapped in that matrix, and this is the matrix of value. That's the argument. You won't accept that as a premise, so we have nothing to discuss. I have nothing to say. There's no other argument. We can't talk about anything ever of meaning if you can't accept the origin of meaning.
Are you able to fathom what it is I'm going on about? When I say...
You're going on about absolute nonsense. You're saying because some thing can say some crap like, baseball be good, that it's automatically good because a thing said it. A thing saying it's good means more, okay, than something suffering. And that's what I just... Yes, that's the end of our conversation.
Something's fallacious. You say, oh, he's saying this, this, and this. I've said it time and time again. When you want to say that I'm saying something, please...
Look, douchebag, I play your fucking videos, okay? So you get to say what you're going to say. You get to say all this shit. What are you whining about? You mischaracterize and misparaphrase me by taking my quotes out of context and making them up. So you either take my clips out of context or you just make up shit. All right, but you don't have the balls to take the time to sit there and play my video and then make all make your mistakes, because you will just make a ton of mistakes.
Prefix it with a quote of mine and say something like, when Hythloday speaks these words, what he's really telling us is this, or something. Yes? Back up.
Well, look, I just predicted you. I didn't play this video, so I had no idea what, but I just nailed it. You played again the subjectivist argument. No recognition that this is not a subjectivist argument. This is not a battle of subjective opinions. This is a battle about what the absolute truth is. There's no point in having a conversation outside of a description of actual reality. My contention is this is the description of actual reality, not a delusion in my fucking imagination. I am attempting to describe actual reality, okay? I'm not conveying nonsense.
Up your accusations, because you're the first one to have a complete girly hissy fit if somebody puts words in your mouth.
Yeah, somebody does it over and over and over and over again. Again, you've been a colossal waste of my goddamn time. I mean, it doesn't really matter because humans are so fucking goddamn stupid that it really just... This is the kind of idiot you'll just endlessly have to argue with. It's just idiot after idiot after idiot after motherfucking idiot. Because you're all dumb motherfuckers. You can't get a single thing right or a single thing will you be fair to in an argument. You're just cheaters and liars and smelly motherfucking pigs. Yeah, you're just disgusting.
Yeah, here, you in the video, you said, I never said that, I didn't say that. And it's just because of the complete loss of context, because of the interjectory style of video.
Yeah, whatever. No, it's because of your mischaracterization of our argument, okay? There's none of that. Whole thing would be totally unnecessary. My argument that you can't defend something merely because it exists, you can't say it should exist, has absolutely nothing to do with our argument that because it doesn't have a purpose, that's relevant because it's a negative. You can't open a bad door without a good reason. And if you don't have a good reason provided by when you're outside the door, there's no reason to open the door. I mean, I'm not. These are not the same argument. You can't compare those two things. Those two things are not the same argument in reverse. They're not.
Video. I will play interjections to hopefully enhance what I've watched in completeness, and probably watched a second time in
well, quite obviously you didn't watch a second time the video where I pointed out right in the beginning of the video as I'm walking in the woods that there's two arguments being made, a value argument and an ethics argument. Obviously you didn't watch that twice.
furthering my thoughts, and it can be 4 or 5 times before I'm using these clips to illustrate. And I may be mistaken, but they're opportune moments for you to say, no, that was completely...
Yeah, well, that's what I did. I said, no, that's a complete mischaracterization of what I said. It's a mischaracterization of the context of the video. It's just a fucking goddamn evil thing to do, to sit there and cut that quote out of the video and say, this is what I said, this is what I meant, when the video clearly has the preface context right in it. That the video I'm talking about, I say the word purpose, I say the purpose argument is only being used to illustrate the fact that there's nothing in the external world, that we're not a cure for a disease, we're not a band-aid for a wound, we don't fix a problem in the external world. So if we have any value, we have to come up with it inside. We have to come up with these ingredients, the ingredients of us, because we're not something to the world. We're not a gift. We're not a benefit to anything outside of us.
Context. You've misunderstood. You've forgotten this concept. I was tying in these concepts. So I don't do
bullshit. Again, you're just distortion for your own purposes. That you couldn't have done I mean, just a hatchet job to the concepts and the ideas, and it demeans. It's incredible. So incredibility in it's beyond credible. Your explanation that you're doing this for the purpose of enlightening or casting light on the subject. No, you're perverting it. There can only be a molestation of the reality for your purposes. The purpose is not this is Michael Jackson loves children. Yeah, well, you love logic like Michael Jackson loves children. Well, did love.
To malign you, to quote mine you, but yeah, don't be so ridiculous with these interjectory styles that in your own mind's eye is just about yourself and delivering an apparent assault upon a person who is merely asking questions.
Well, again, you weren't merely asking questions. You were making the direct accusation of a duplicity or hypocrisy in standards. You were saying our logical standards are broken because, see, we're arguing this and then we're arguing that. And those two things aren't compatible when we're not doing what you say we were doing. So you were lying. So I'm just saying, I don't know, what do you want me to say? You're making accusations. You're not asking questions. You're making accusations. You're calling our arguments fallacious. You're doing lots of things that are just plain they're offensive to anybody who's got any integrity. Is going to find it offensive that this twat who has proven nothing, argued nothing, made no sensible argument whatsoever, except you haven't proven that feelings matter, which just seems like something beneath a conversation with a 5-year-old. 5-year-olds know feelings matter. Why should I have to argue with this asshole? Pathetic. I just hate this planet. I hate these people. So, oh yeah, Mr. My Name guy, right? He's got Groucho as his icon. Yeah, I'm supposed to take this guy seriously. He said something about a forum where each person gets 90 seconds to respond. Then you say something about there being a question, and he interjects about eating a tasty cupcake versus nail in the eye and says he can't help you. He wants to create this format at the same time that his message is that you are beyond help because, yeah, whatever. I made it as a suggestion that obviously this isn't working because there's too many misparaphrases, and then people just pile on the misparaphrase. He went on in his video on a false premise. So yeah, false premises need to be nipped in the bud. There needs to be a mechanism to get false premises out of the argument. You don't think that's reasonable? Fuck you. I'm starting to think his philosophy on life is tasty cupcake is better than nail in the eye. Yes, and that nail in the eye is really, really a bad thing. And a tasty cupcake is absolute frivolous, trivial crap. And that's part of the argument too. But you don't really care about anything too complicated, right? Anything more than one sentence is a little too much philosophy for you, right, Groucho? I bet you're not even near as funny as Groucho. Once you understand that statement, you pretty much understand everything he has to say about life. Yeah, well, whatever. Again, I don't even understand people who steal people's icons. You know, I mean, he's got, you know, Hythloda's got Columbo as an icon. I just don't even, I wouldn't feel too comfortable stealing somebody else's image and identity and character and playing it. I mean, it's just, it seems like a pretty weak thing to be doing. Stealing somebody else's mojo. The absolutes of the idea that life creates more harm than good and the imposition of life succumb to the argument that if one, I mean, he's posting a response to his own comment. Amazing. Considers one's existence of greater value than one's non-existence if one chooses. Well, again, this is not about, you know, the fucking lack of consent argument destroys all of this nonsense. So you have to get to the basic life argument and explain what you're doing here that isn't satisfying a need that doesn't need to exist. Show me the need that does need to exist. There's some need you have that does need to exist. Please explain. To strive to go on, that has more weight than what is said, especially in the more free and knowledge society where many painless exists are available. Where many painless exits are available. Oh, again, so again, he's saying it's easy to kill yourself, which is just such a crock of shit. I can't believe what somebody says about themselves, but I place more weight on what I observe and its implications to my application of logic and reason. Well, gee, isn't that special? You're just like Jeebus, aren't you? Both of his main arguments brought down in one sentence. Oh, where did that happen? Not that I expected him to awaken from his mental stagnation. I don't even know. So I guess I'd have to figure out what this sentence is. This is one sentence. It is a very long. No, but yeah. Well, no, there's a period there. It's two sentences. The absoluteness of the ideas that life creates more harm than good and the imposition of life succumb to the argument that if one considers one's existence of greater value than one's non-existence. Succumb to the argument that if one considers one's existence of greater value, I don't understand. How does it succumb to that? If one chooses to strive to go on, that has more weight than what is said. If one chooses to strive to go on. So if you're afraid of dying, it means you want to live. So it's again, he's just saying the same thing all over again. And yet I wasn't given the chance to kill myself when I was a child, and I would have been perfectly willing to do that. All I had was a knife then. I did, you know, I did put it in the proper position, but, you know, pushing it through does require an element of